Hi, this is Anton. Welcome to my kitchen. I make fresh bread nearly every day. It's simple, it's fun, it's delicious. Nothing like the smell of fresh bread baking in the house. A lot of people won't make bread because they think the task is too daunting, that it takes too much time. But here's what I do. I'll start this process in the morning, then the dough can rise over the daytime, and then when I come home I decide what I'm going to make out of the ball of dough. I can make pizza, I can make bread, I can make rolls, whatever you want. Use your imagination. Anything that's bread, turn this into that. Let's say you come home and you've got a couple of hours until dinner time. You can start what we're doing now, then you'll knead your dough, and then it can rise for an hour. You punch it down, let it rise for a little while longer into the shape, and then you bake it. So you've got about a 2 or 3 hour process if you're going to do it all at once. But if you do it like I do, it doesn't have to be in a warm place. If it's in a warm place, by the time you come home, there will be dough everywhere. You can even put this in the refrigerator and it'll still work. People don't know that, but yeast will rise even when it's cold, once it's been activated. And it actually makes the dough taste really wonderful because it draws out the flavors of the flour you're using. The flavor of your bread has more to do with the flour you use than it does with the yeast you're using. Basic bread dough, it goes like this. You've got about a cup of water, a tablespoon of active dry yeast, and to that I'll add another cup of flour. Mix these together. Stir it in fairly smooth. It'll be fairly liquid. Now you don't want to add salt to this. The salt inhibits the growth of the yeast. We'll let that yeast foam up for 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll come back and add flour, salt, and water, and a little bit of oil. So now we can see that the foam has risen nicely, so I'm going to add about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of flour. Add a good pinch of salt, maybe about a tablespoon. And some olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, about a tablespoon. Mix all that together nicely. You might want to add a little bit of water to that. Be careful not to add too much. Stir the dough, it'll be kind of clumpy at first, and then as it mixes and mixes, it'll start to get gooey. You want this tacky but not sticky. If it's a little too sticky, add a little bit more flour. Stir that into it. You can actually make bread by just stirring. You don't have to knead bread. Makes it nice and airy, kind of a country rustic loaf with big bubbles. Now we're going to scrape that out of the bowl, munch it all together. You don't want any dry pieces and you don't want any sticky pieces. Should be a nice consistency, not too stiff, but not so sticky that it's just a glop either. Now we throw down a little bit of flour on our counter and press it out. Press with the heel of your hand, push away from you, fold it over, turn it, push it. Kneading's really a lot of fun. Press that dough through. You can knead that for a few minutes, test it, see how that feels. It's just tacky, but not so it sticks to my hands really. Press it out a few more times. Then we're going to stick it in the bowl and let it rise for an hour. Throw a towel over the top of that so it doesn't dry out. Let's take a look and see how our dough is doing. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that, it rose nicely. We're going to take that out, punch it down. Don't want to press out too much of the air. We're going to let that sit for about 10 minutes, then we'll cut it and shape it, and then we'll put it on trays, let it rise, and stick it in the oven. The reason you want to let the dough rest is because as you knead the dough, the gluten mesh becomes tighter and the dough becomes harder to form. So when you let it rest, then you can more easily shape the dough. Now the dough's had a chance to relax. Now we're going to cut it and shape it. Now, some evenings I'll turn this into pizza, maybe baguettes. I think today I'll make some Kaiser rolls. What I'm doing is I'm stretching the dough to tighten the gluten once more so it has a nice height to it. We'll let those rise for half an hour to an hour, depends how warm your room is. Now when we were initially making the dough, we wanted it to be cool so the flavor of the flour had time to grow with the yeast. But now that we're getting ready to bake, we want this to happen a little more quickly, so a warm spot is good for this. Going to score these. This is a typical shape you see in Bavaria. They have either a cross or a half cut or a six-way cut. Or you can leave it as it is. Let's cover those and let them rise for the next half hour or so. We'll check them and see if they're ready and they've blown up nicely. We'll stick them in a nice humid oven. These look like they've risen nicely. Now let's put them in the oven. 400 degrees. These are smaller. I'm going to raise the temperature a little so they brown up faster. 425, and we'll check them in about 20 minutes, half an hour. Oh, it's smelling good. Wow. Now look at that. Now all we need is a basket. This towel. Cotton cloth. Whew. Gosh. What a great way to start the day. This is Anton. Remember, be good to those you love and be good to yourself.